On this episode of Cox Connections, built in the early 19th century, Fort Monroe has served as the major headquarters for training soldiers for war. So with its impending closure in the fall of 2011, what does that mean for the active duty members, civilian employees, and overall the Hampton Roads region? We've invited the garrison commander, Colonel Anthony Reyes, to discuss the transition process. Volunteer Hampton Roads works to change the community for the better through nonprofit training, corporate programming, and volunteerism. Learn more about this organization and how it supports the nonprofit sector. The Virginia Sports Hall of Fame and Museum honors those from the state that have made a major impact on the world of sports. But it's more than just the state-of-the-art exhibits. Find out how the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame creates educational opportunities for students through its programs and activities. Stay tuned. Cox Connections is next. Hello and welcome to Cox Connections. I'm your host, Gary McCullum, Senior Vice President and General Manager for Cox Hampton Roads. The U.S. Army garrison Fort Monroe will be closing in the fall of this year. So what kind of impact will that have on the Hampton Roads community? Here to talk about the transition, the whole process, and what it will entail is Garrison Commander Colonel Anthony Reyes. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Gary, thanks for having me.
Well, Fort Monroe, it's a huge part of our community. The transition is underway. What's keeping you up at night?
Well, as you know, we have two missions, basically, and as any other BRAC installation has. And number one, you want to make sure you can continue to provide top-notch base operation support to our tenant activities. And then number two, you want to make sure you execute with a huge amount of dignity and respect a good execution plan to transition the installation to civilian control. What keeps me up at night is taking care of the people that execute that mission for me.
And you mentioned the people, so you have, I guess, the active duty military.
Yes.
They will be reassigned,
Yes.
but you also have a substantial amount of civilians who also are going to be impacted. What's the difference between the two?
The difference between the two is that our military personnel will receive orders from the Department of the Army. They are not a worry or a concern for me when it comes down to future jobs. The civilian personnel are a little different. They will not receive orders. And for our tenant organizations that are transitioning to, say, Fort Eustis is where the bulk of our personnel are going, they will move into enduring jobs if that's what their choice is. For my garrison employees, the garrison goes away because there's already a base operation component at, say, Joint Base Langley Eustis, so there's not a need for my garrison to shut down and then to move up there. So the implied task there is for me to ensure that those personnel that still want to work, and I do have a certain amount that are going to retire, but I do have a number.
So you're doing some things to help those.
We're doing a number of
employees
things.
Transition and find, even in a tight job market.
Absolutely,
you're doing some things.
Absolutely, because we started out with 250 of these employees as of the 2005 BRAC announcement, and we've now worked that number down to 67 that we still need to find jobs for. And what it comes down to is we've actually put in place what I like to call a traveling personnel roadshow. And what we've done is we've taken our personnel, those that want enduring jobs, and we've gone to our neighboring military installations, and we've basically shopped our people to those installations.
That's wonderful.
And we've been able to get priority consideration from the commanders of the surrounding military installations, so that people with similar skills can move, say, from Fort Monroe over to those installations, still keep enduring jobs. So this is one of those things that they don't have to worry about while they're still executing such an important job for me.
So obviously, this is with the whole BRAC effort,
Right.
This and the people moves.
Right.
This is a little bit of an emotional issue. So how do you separate that piece of it from, the day-to-day job of doing the mission, accomplishing the mission?
First of all, I believe you always have to let your people know that you've got their best interests at heart, and it is sensitive, and I believe leaders need to make sure their people understand that they understand how sensitive this whole issue of base realignment and closure is. I've got people on my team that have grown up on Fort Monroe. I have some people that were born on Fort Monroe when we had a hospital there. I have some people where their only government job has been on Fort Monroe. So am I sensitive to it? Yes. As a college student at Hampton, I watched Fort Monroe from 5 minutes away and was proud of the installation. Then as a college student, was proud of it my entire career and still remain that way. And so I think part of it is making sure your people understand or know that you understand the sensitivity that goes along with it.
And I guess there's some people who still don't quite understand it, because as I go around, there still are people who believe that there's still time to stop the closure, that this too may pass. Is that, unbelievably, that's still there's some of that thinking going on.
And I would say up until about a year ago, I was still hearing a lot of that, but the way that we address it on my team, and I'm blessed as a commander to have one of the best assembled garrison teams in the Army, and I know that, having done this twice now. I think you have to stay on message, and you have to let people know that base realignment and closure is federal law, and laws aren't put into place overnight, and laws are not changed overnight, and I am just straight with my personnel, and we deal in reality, and it wouldn't be prudent for me as a commander to deal in what ifs. Every soldier knows that it's not really their issue to debate orders as they come down. It's our mission to salute smartly,
and
move on, carry out the mission.
We only have about a minute left, and this has been great information. I guess there's the Fort Monroe Authority, which is going to work with you and figuring out what the transition is going to look like as this moves toward private control. If I'm listening to this and I want to know more about what's going on, where do I go? Is there a website
If you want to know about information leading up to conclosure on our operations right now, we've got the Fort Monroe website, and you've got the www.monroe.army.mil.
I think we're showing that now.
You're showing that.
Okay.
And then you've also, if you just Google Fort Monroe Authority, and the acronym they use is FMA, they will have an amazing amount of information on the reuse plan and on everything that's actually applied to what they're doing from a reuse perspective after September 15, 2011. And we work hand in hand with that Fort Monroe Authority in terms of town hall meetings. I meet with them at least monthly. We're pretty much joined at the hip. We've got very good partnership. And together, I think we're going to do something here that everybody in this community can be proud of.
Listen, Colonel Reyes, thank you for your leadership. This is a tough mission that you have, but it sounds like you're doing a great job of executing that mission, and clearly Fort Monroe is going to make this transition. It's going to continue to do great things for our community. So thank you for being on the show today.
I'm blessed with a great team. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, volunteerism is a great way to give back to the community at large and to help it thrive and grow. When we come back, hear how one organization works to make Hampton Roads a better place to live. Stay tuned to more Cox Connections.